Awakening is not comfortable. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like blissful and fun all the time. Awakening requires shedding and releasing and lots of deaths of identity and roles that you have played, and the ideas that you developed throughout your human experience, thinking that you had to be something or play a role or act a certain way or present yourself in a way that gives you value and worth. When you start stepping in to a true awakening, all that stuff starts to be released from your identity. And that sucks, because then you're basically moving into this unknown part of yourself where there is no identity and there is no role and there's no distinct purpose other than to be yourself, whoever you really are in your most authentic version. And our most authentic version is evolving. So who I was a year ago is not who I'm going to be in a year. Who I am now is not going to be who I am in 5 years. Awakening is the releasing of role and identity based in the ego understanding of who you are and what you bring to the world. Awakening is coming back to the energy of love for yourself and for all humans. It's about seeing other people beyond their role and understanding that we're all one consciousness working towards the same thing. When I had my spiritual awakening back in 2016, it was one of those moments where, I felt when I heard the voice in my backyard. If you don't know about my awakening journey, in 2016, I was in my backyard mowing my yard, and I heard an audible voice come through. And it wasn't like an audible voice like talking outside of me. It was an audible voice in my mind. And I heard, "You're doing it wrong." And this message came through, and as it said, "You're doing it wrong," started flashing all these images in my head, started giving me all these insights about my life. I started to feel like I was living inside this tiny little box and that nothing was real that I was living. I started having this uncomfortable feeling that I wasn't here doing what I was supposed to do. Like there was more to life. There was more to the experience. There's more to being a human. And it's not that I didn't question things before, but I questioned them in a lens of religion. I looked at them through the lens of being obedient to God, to giving my power over to something outside of myself. And when I had that awakening, it came with a feeling of doom. It came with a feeling of fear. It came with a feeling of like this dread feeling. And now I understand that feeling. I've been having it again. In the last year, there's been a lot of moments where I've suddenly gone into another wave of an awakening. And I know it's just releasing and shedding identity and roles and programmed ideas about who we have to be to have importance in this world. But a part of the awakening process is that continues. So when I had that in 2016, where everything started to shift for me and my identity changed completely, I am not the person I was back then. That hasn't ended. It doesn't end. But it shouldn't be something that we fear. It should be something we welcome. Because the more you shed your ego or the ideas of the ego, not necessarily not having an ego, the ego plays a beautiful, important part of our human experience. But it's not allowing the ego to hold on to the identity and roles that we have been using to find value and worth in who we are. And once we release the idea that anything you do physically, or you perform, or you provide, anything like that, falls short to the energetics of just being authentic and being love. And the more that you are love, the more you're going to transform and the more people you're going to reach in this world. Because the roles and identity will never continue because they are always evolving. There's always going to be something else that you can be or become. And this is why when people chase after a role or they chase after an identity, and then that role or identity leaves, or they're no longer able to play that part, they go through a crisis. And so that's what we're shedding. Awakening is the shedding of the ideas the ego is created to give you value and worth. And it's remembering that your value and worth is within you being your most authentic self. And then every single role or part you play in humanity, no matter what that is just something you get to experience while you're here. It's not your identity. My identity is not a spiritual teacher or a intuitive healer or a psychic or a medium. Those are just things I do while I'm here on earth. My true role is a frequency of God, a literal replica of love that came to experience a physical experience, not to project into the world an egotistic idea that I have knowledge to share with humanity. The knowledge I share comes because I love humanity, and I can't not share it if I love humanity. And I have to have that within myself first before I share it. So as people evolve, as they awaken, the first thing that always takes place is the shedding of yourself so that you can become more aligned with your most authentic frequency of love, and then evolve into that as you continue to ascend. So I don't know why I just shared that, other than that's been going on in my mind. And for the last week, I have been having that same feeling of doom come up again. And so I'm starting to wonder what's going to come next for me. There's another thing coming, and it doesn't mean that this is going to be something that is going to make me important. It just means that some kind of an identity or role is going to be shifted, and being in the frequency of love is what needs to be maintained. So if you're going through something similar, just keep that in mind.